Hey, packaging designers. This is Professor Almena here. We are now at week 6 of our packaging design project. And I wanted to first take a moment to recap week 4 and 5. We were basically working on our research and strategy for phase 1. And on our last session, we went over in-class individual projects. So we had a small presentation and shared what our projects will be for the next few weeks. So we have a wonderful range of projects. We have food, beauty products, apparel packaging, and some are rebrands and some are completely new brands from the ground up. And so I'm excited to see what we create in these next few weeks. And I want to say well done on finding the product and packaging project that you want to work on. So that's exciting. Today we're gonna talk a little bit about the creative discovery process, or the next stage after phase 1, which is phase 2, creative discovery. This is where it gets a little bit more fun, where we look at graphics and images and start defining a little bit more some of the imagery associated with your project. And let me just first preview and just kind of say that we want to make sure that we get a chance to review the video on the topic as well, so that we're in alignment. So whatever the discussion question is for this week, make sure you take a look at it, because those are videos that kind of give us a little bit more of an in-depth look at the overall process. And that's going to be found in our in our discussion portion of the week. So the discussion posting, look for that. You will see the video, which is indicated here, how creative agencies present first round concepts. It's very, very helpful, really good resource, and form design has been a huge inspiration in the class so far. So that's great. And we hope to have them talk to us soon in class. So we're still working on those details, but we'll see if we can secure them or a designer or packaging designer in our future classes. Okay, so creative discovery. We are now in the creative discovery phase of the project, and our objective is to create a branding landscape or brandscape of your hypothetical product packaging. What does that mean? We are basically now entering into design strategy, and we're looking at brand landscapes, associated graphics, and conceptual research. And what's kind of nice about this is that, like I said, it does get a bit more interesting, and it turns into more fun. And we're still going to use the Sweetie Ice Cream case study as a reference for our project. But what we're going to do in this session is, one, we're going to make a copy of this deck, and so that you can have it for yourself, and you will be filling in slides number 9, which is the module, 10, conceptual direction, 11, 12, 13, they're all conceptual direction or brandscape mood boards, they're also known as. And we are going to make sure that we fill those in. So those last 5 slides are going to be filled in, and you can add additional slides if you have more concept, more branding landscapes, more images that of exploration, but minimum is 4 different directions for the concept. So this assignment is worth 40 points. And when you fill in these slides, so number 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13, you're ready to move forward. And you can copy these slides and place them into any other presentations as you want, or you can just specifically copy those last slides and turn them in, whichever you feel most comfortable with, feel free. Okay, so coming back to Sweetie Ice Cream. Now, in our last phase number 1, we were looking at brand name and audience, in addition to multiple other areas. But I really want to zone in a little bit and focus in on these 2 areas, because this sort of helps us get more focus for concept and development of a concept. And before I do that, let me just go ahead and just talk a little bit about the branding landscape in reference to our posting in GDSN 174. The quote definition of a brand landscape, if I go to it here, is defined as the starting point for a visual design which is typically known as a brand landscape or mood board. And it helps define the style, the feeling, and a general aesthetic or overall look of a part or whole of a creative project. Brandscapes may include a collection of words, colors, graphics, textures, image references, screen captures, sketches, or other materials that contain some relevant details. Creating brandscapes can be a collaborative process, and they are often used to communicate ideas that are difficult to describe with words. And so that's the official definition of a mood board or branding landscape. Different organizations have different approaches to this, but they're all essentially the same concept. It defines a style, it captures the feeling, it gives us an overall understanding of the aesthetic in the project, and it's considered a conceptual level of research. And so we're going to be diving into that here. And of course, the module has this presentation that you can make a copy of, which I'm presenting on now on screen. Okay, so how are we going to do this? Well, let's look at what's going to get turned in. So when you do this assignment, the one part of it is this screen, which is the Brandscape module, the brainstorming module. And I pulled this from my digital illustration logo brainstorming packet because they have the same process, but this is the packaging version of that. And what we're going to do is answer these 3 questions to kind of help us define and focus our thinking on our brandscapes. What are those questions? Well, you'll see here that one of the questions that's highlighted at the top is that we want to obviously define the name of the brand. So if you're rebranding, you know your name. If you're creating a new name or new product, then obviously the name will be very important because we want to define the name of the brand, because all meaning, all graphic direction is encompassed in the name. Names are really important. And so when we understand the name of something, then as you saw in your last exercise, we want to determine what is that name and its meaning. And if I had to go very quickly to that slide, for those that are creating a new project on their own, really think about the name in terms of its 4 areas or qualities. Is it meaningful? Okay. Is it going to be distinctive? Maybe it's suggestive. Maybe it's modular. But we want to know, because names really do help in the process, because names are indications of symbols. Names can be distinctive. Names could be literally a graphic approach altogether, depending on where you want to go and what the name is. So it's really important to know your name before doing this exercise for those folks that are doing new products. So really think about, what is your name or package going to be called, because after this, it really is going to be double the work to change it later, because you have to go through this process of meaning, distinction, suggestion, or modular. So we want to be very clear about your name. Okay. So going back to that module, we're going to be thinking a little bit about the name. So what is the name of the brand? So in this case, for the case study, we're going to say Sweetie Ice Cream. So we know the name, we know a little bit of the history, Asian inspired dessert or ice cream. And we want to go deeper and ask the question here, that what are the words that describe the brand? So adjectives, words, phrases, but what describes the brand? For Sweetie Ice Cream, those words would be bite-sized, playful, authentic, genuine, simple, cool, honest, heritage, family, happiness, and curiosity. These are words that describe this product, and it could be divided into subgroups too. But these are words that kind of describe your product. So you really want to know, what are the words or adjectives that describe your current brand, your new brand, right? What are they? And can you break them down into 1 or 2 words, in 1 or 2 words, basically? The next thing we want to look at and ask the question is, what are the describing imagery and elements of art associated with describing the brand? So think about what you just saw on our second question, the words that describe the brand, but what are pictures connected to that? And ask yourself that question, like, what can I, if I think about playful or authentic, what's the first thing that comes into my mind? Don't think about others, but really yourself. What comes into your mind based on your unique experiences and understanding of the project and research that comes to mind? To these designers, they are retro colors, vintage, Asian influenced, heritage, layered, which is an element of art, layering or texture, cultural, modern, geometric, element of art, right? So these are kind of taking the adjectives and going a step further and kind of describing it in terms of those art elements, in terms of genres, in terms of objects. It really goes at a little bit of a deeper level to define those pictures. So when I go through the brand, Sweetie Ice Cream, I always like to do like the first thing that comes into my mind. And there's no right or wrong, but really run this module as if it was like first thing that comes into your mind. And then I always like to switch that up to, what I assume could come that the target audience might think of when they think about these things. So having an understanding of the target audience is going to be really helpful too. So when I go through this module, I think about like those things that come into my mind, the first things that come into my mind, no right or wrong. And then for at least a few minutes, I take into consideration the target audience, and I ask myself the same question, like what are some things that this audience might think about? So there is a lot of like shifting of perspective, as it were. In the beginning, when you're doing this, it really helps just to focus on what comes to your mind first. And then as you work in teams and in groups, you'll start to kind of bring in other perspectives, other ages, and it kind of adds to it. But for right now, for what we're doing individually as a packaging design class starting out, think about what comes to your mind, the first thing that comes into your mind, okay? And two people are going to have different things related to the same thing or related to the same topic. So if you think of, Sweetie Ice Cream and you think of Mexico, then you write that down, because there's perhaps an approach, a style, a specific thing that could very well connect the two brands or the two concepts together. And that's really honestly what designers do. We find creative ways to connect two seemingly unrelated things, and we find ways to connect them. Okay, so really good designers know how to connect two things that seem complete polar opposites and know how to bring them together in cool, interesting, and unique ways. So don't discredit your thought, don't discredit your words, actually lean into it. And even if it doesn't make sense to other people, it makes sense to you, and that's what I want. What is making sense to you? And we'll work together to filter that, okay? Now, once you have those words, then we get to have some fun. We actually start looking at different directions. So as you saw in the video, there's a lot of different ways that you can go about this. There's some ways that you can go about this is literally going into different websites like the Die Line or Lovely Package and start pulling graphics, images of different styles and start building and literally bringing it into this presentation and start building your boards, right? I always like to create sometimes subfolders in my desktop and kind of put them in according to different ideas and try to categorize them that way. There's other things like Pinterest. Pinterest is an app where you can actually pin different ideas. So sometimes people like to go onto Pinterest and create boards on Pinterest and pin different directions. And you could do that too, if you wish. In fact, if you want to share a Pinterest board in addition to this, you can. Just let's have a conversation, of course. So I'm on the lookout for your links for your boards, so you can do that as well. But at the end of the day, I really do like the idea that the deck should present itself, because once you're ready to present this, it really should look like what you see on screen. It should be easy for people, the client, to understand. So this is very clean, and it shows different directions. So if, let's say you're the client and I'm showing this to you, you're Sweetie Ice Cream, I'm showing this to you, then you want to make sure that you have a call out, conceptual direction, and you want to identify or give it a name. It's always nice to give certain directions names so that people can kind of internalize it for themselves. oh, what is this? Oh, this is what we call modern mochi. And we think modern mochi looks like bold colors, playful elements and shapes, or playful colors, playful shapes, elements, playful colors, bold type, bold colors, bold contrast, right? Simple yet geometric shapes and forms. And so this is one direction we're thinking about for our concept. So being able to identify and give us a breakdown is helpful because as a class and as your teacher, I want to be able to make the connection between the word and the object, or the word and the graphic, and maybe even make some suggestions on how you can find additional images that can support it. I'm assuming that most of us have not taken an art history class, but once you take an art history class, or more specifically a graphic design history class, this will come a lot easier to you because you know all the different genres of design history that you can pull into. So I recommend the graphic design history course for you as professionals, because this will actually help you develop your mood boards or your brandscapes with a little bit more ease moving forward, okay? But I'll help you in that stage. New traditions, here's another concept. So if I was a client, again, very clear, I see what I see. This is new traditions, this is heritage, cultural, and it's layered, right? And it's working very clean, and I can see what the thinking is. These are heritage, these are things from the past, images of the past, or maybe inspired from the past. It's cultural, so it's very specific to a particular country or region of the world. And it's layered, there's multiple layers happening to kind of create sort of a collage effect. So that style, that approach seems very interesting, and that's called new traditions. And so this is just another direction for the client to go into. And so we want to build these brandscapes in this area. Notice that it's not just images, but it includes logos, it includes fonts, right? You don't have to necessarily know the name of the font, but we want to be able to see some type, see some elements, some hierarchy, maybe an example of existing products that we could bring into it. That's why we did good versus bad packaging, to kind of get you started on what looks good. And if you want to go deeper, like at an insanely deeper level, you can actually go as deep as this brandscape, which uses every inch of the screen to its maximum potential. So if you feel like you want to create something that has multiple images, multiple colors, and there's even squares that indicate colors in theory, you can. Just know that it has to be easily understood to a 5-year-old, basically, so that they can see it and understand that there's a pattern and you have a certain direction. Okay. And I added an additional slide in case you wanted to copy that and contribute to the fourth. So that's literally the exercise, guys. We are basically going into that next stage, is creative direction. So I want to see what you see and what graphics you're thinking about, and give it a name, right? Have some fun with it. What would you call this? How would you identify this style? Remember, when you're dealing with a client, you like them and you're building a relationship with them. So you really want to have something that kind of is interesting and fun. It's creative, right? And so you want to be able to articulate that, but also bring a unique spin, a unique name, a unique identifier as well. So, have some fun with it. Okay. This is the part where we get into that. It actually starts to become a bit more fun, and we get to see all the possibilities that are out there. Okay. All right. So that is the session for today. If we don't get a chance to talk during class, obviously due to other exercises happening in digital illustration, please use this video, go back to it, replay it if you need to, and allow that to hopefully answer any questions, help one another as well if there's any questions or issues that you have. Okay. All right, guys. Well done, and have a wonderful time building your creative discovery brand landscape. We will see you next time.